Well, thank you everybody for tuning in to Impacting Life 24/7 with your host CL King. And I bet you guys are wondering, where them folks at? Well, we're right here. I just wanted to make sure we got everything set in the studio for all of you that will be tuning in from the north, the south, the east, and the west for my very, very special guest. This is a very short notice guest. We got to fly him in on short notice. The one and only Dr. Nate Dunlap. Now, let me tell you, before he comes on, I want you guys to understand that Dr. Nate Dunlap has been a friend, a mentor, a brother, and somebody who I can confide in for many, many years. And Dr. Nate Dunlap is the founder of the PRF Institute, which we're going to get into tonight, a 501c3 organization that teaches communities around the country God's principles of possessions, resources, and finances. As a religious educator and community leader, his life of ministry through PRF is to help transform the economic landscape of over 200,000 people in the next 7 years. Now, Dr. Dunlap is a modest man. He's a humble man. But let me tell you something. He comes with a whole lot of weight. When you mention Dr. Nate Dunlap in the room, people start taking note of it. And I'm going to tell you why. Because he is not just about lip service. We got enough people out here giving lip service to things and changes, etc. But Dr. Dunlap has rolled up his sleeves and said, it doesn't matter if it takes me 7 or if I have to do it in 70, I'm going to make an impact in the economic well-being of people around the country. And that is why he and I have connected, because this show is about impact. It's not about lip service. And if that's your type of show, you're not going to enjoy this. But I'm telling you, if you will get a pen and pad and get a paper and take notes and listen very closely, and then after this is all over, connect with the great doctor. I'm telling you, you will do yourself a service and you'll be thoroughly, thoroughly blessed. Greg Smith is already in the house, got the PRF Institute label already in the chat. Welcome, Greg, and welcome to these studios, the great and wonderful Dr. Nate Dunlap. There he is.
I love it, man. And listen, as I've said on many times before,
yes,
all I need to do is have you anytime I go to speak, because if I have you when I go to speak, I probably don't have to speak as long.
Yes, sir. I know exactly what you're saying, Dr. Dunlap, because you got to spend part of your time getting the people to believe you're worth listening to, isn't it? So,
thank you, my brother.
So thankful for you taking time out of your schedule to be with us back here on Impacting Life 24/7. Full disclosure, Dr. Nate Dunlap has been a partner, and PRF Institute has been a partner of Impacting Life 24/7, a sponsor, a financial sponsor of this podcast almost since its inception. And he continues to support us. They continue to support us month after month. And for that, this is why Dr. Dunlap has full access to all the bells and whistles here at Impactville. And so, Greg, let everybody know that the doctor is in the house. Now, we got a double header tonight, so I got to pull everything I can out of you, and then I'm going to let you go, and then I'm going to go on to the next one, the faith group, after we're done. But doctor, one thing that I wanted to ask you up front, okay, and this has been on my heart all day, because we don't put a premium on ignorance, but I don't think we do enough focus on the work, the discipline, the work ethic it takes to make it to your educational status. I'd like for you to give us just a little bit of background on your journey to becoming Dr. Nate Dunlap, because I want some young people to hear this. You know, they think, man, I just go down to Bojangles and get me a doctor. I want you to tell us your journey and the levels that you went through, the steps that you went through to become Dr. Nate Dunlap. The floor is yours.
Absolutely. Thank you. And again, thank you for the invitation, Brother King. You know, I was a pretty good kid growing up in Philly. And you know, I think I was groomed for college because that's what you heard in the household, right? In the 70s and 80s. You heard go to college, go to college, go to college, get a good job. And at some point during my high school years, I kind of started smelling myself a little bit. When I say smelling myself, I didn't take my grades and schoolwork as serious as I was throughout the rest of the time. And fortunately, I was in this thing called Air Force Junior ROTC.
Ooh,
And
okay.
because I was in junior ROTC, I determined around 10th, 11th grade that I wanted to go to the military. So college really wasn't what I was thinking about. I didn't think I needed to have great grades. Went into the military, entered the military at 18. As soon as I turned 18, I popped smoke. And then I realized after about a year, I was in Saudi for a year, came back, and then I realized that you had to have college to get promoted. For real, for real.
Yeah, for real.
So um, I wound up going to Virginia State because I was in Fort Lee, Virginia, in Petersburg, Virginia.
Mm.
And we used to hang out on the campus and hang out on the yard. And then I just kind of made a conscious decision that I may be able to have some additional fun if I was in a classroom around a whole bunch of folks. And
Mhm.
so I started going to college in 93, and I graduated with a 4-year degree, my bachelor's degree in individualized studies, um, after attending 6 colleges and universities to piecemeal and send back to VSU the work that I've done. So because I was in the military, it was this program called a SOCAD program, allows you to send your coursework back. You had to get it approved before you take it. And everywhere I went, as far as my duty station, I made sure they knew where I was at, took what I took, and graduated. And then, of course, that helped me with promotion. And then after my time with the military was up the first time, I was out doing my thing professionally and happened to be in Fort Benning, Georgia, and stopped by Columbus State University, handling things for work in my consultant role. And the person that was over there, Dr. Archie Rainey, he's like, "You ever thought about this?" And because of my law enforcement background, there was this program called the Georgia Law Enforcement Command College. I guess I'm gonna start telling people a little bit more about me that never heard this.
That's right.
Georgia Law
I didn't
Enforcement
even know
Command
this.
College,
Mhm.
and that is um, a program that was in partnership with the Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police. And it was for those who were in senior level law enforcement positions that couldn't leave the job of law enforcement to sit in the classroom every week from 6 to 9 p.m. on Tuesday and Thursday, right? Law enforcement is unpredictable. So I was in investigations pretty much my whole career. And I did that program over a 2-year period. Graduated with my master's in public administration from Columbus State University, and then thought I would just go back and do whatever I was doing. You know, sometimes when you get a degree or two, you be like, okay, I'm done, right? Because it was kind of brutal.
Yeah.
And then I started working in higher education at Troy University. And then I quickly, said, I just want some more. And I wanted some theological education and tried a couple of non-accredited programs and some the ones they send you the books. I just wanted to learn more about God and the Bible. I started walking with Christ around that time, and it just wasn't working. And so uh, I thought that my job was going to kind of allow me to get off work a little bit early every now and then to go to what was then seminary. That's what was in my path,
Mhm.
and they didn't. And so I quit. And then I became a full-time seminary student. Full grown, wife, children, bills, everything.
Yeah, and he said, "Okay, honey, today was my last day."
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. She was like, "Did somebody make you mad?" I was like, "Nah." "Did you fight with somebody?" Like, "Nah." I was like, "Remember that conversation we had a little bit back about if you can just bring in this amount of money, we should be good." I was like, "Well, the day's a day." And so I attended Columbia Theological Seminary in Decatur, Georgia, traveled back and forth from Columbus a couple times a week, and earned a master's of arts in theological studies. And I focused on ethics because I just felt the world had a lot of ethical problems going on, and hoped I was going to get back into higher education after that. Um, and then it did not happen, and I go back to the field and doing what I was doing in my career. And then next thing you know, I got approached about this doctorate of ministry degree from New York Theological Seminary. And I'm like, well, I'm down in Georgia. How am I gonna get to New York? It's like, no, we're gonna meet in Atlanta as a cohort. And I was like, interesting. Let me check this out. And so I got to give big ups to um, Professor Dr. Marcia Riggs, who was the person who was leading this. And I found out that a lot of problems and issues that people have in life is based on conflict, right? And conflict is nothing more than a clash of ideas and thoughts that we have about things, people, or situations. And so graduated from NYTS with the Doctor of Ministry degree, and that was my journey to higher education, or obtaining degrees in higher education.
Well, let me ask you this: from graduation to obtaining your doctorate, how many years after high school did you have to be in school?
Wow. So we're talking, um, wow, 15 years.
Wow. See, and this is one thing that
Oh, 25. No, 25 for all four of them. Yeah. So from 90 to 2015.
oh wow. Oh wow. Okay. So
Yeah, 25 years to get
and
all four
this
degrees.
and this is what I really am trying to emphasize to the next generation. I'm getting older. I'm like the next generation that I've been speaking to, I'm getting further and further away from them. Every time I go to the high school, the kids are looking younger and younger. You understand, doctor? I'm like,
Yes, sir.
how did y'all get into the school? But one of the things that I try to in one of my trainings that I do, it's about mirrors, and every letter in the word mirrors means something. So one of the
Mhm.
R's in mirrors is rigor. And you got to understand that some things that you're going, if you want to accomplish, if you want to go after them, it's going to be rigorous. It's not just going to be handed to you. And
Mm.
case in point, you went through school for 2 decades to get to where you are today. And I want people to understand that when we talk about impact, this man wouldn't have to do anything else but just tell you that story right there to see that he had the tenacity, the discipline, the drive, and the faith. Because you kind of jumped out in faith and said, "Hey, look, I'm done working," and that's all a part of this whole thing called impact. And we're blessed today to have in our virtual studios the one and only Dr. Nate Dunlap from Opelika, Alabama. See, I got it right. I spelled it out phonetically too, so I didn't mess it up, doctor. I spelled it Likea. But a friend to this program, to this show, to this movement, and you can connect with him immediately. I would love for you to do that. Go to prfinstitute.org. Is that the place where you like everybody we want us to point them to, or you want us to go somewhere else?
PRFinstitute.org. That is it. That is the web.
prfinstitute.org. Greg, if you could put that in the chat one more time, prfinstitute.org. And one of the things that, it's really interesting, PRF, because it's like, who ate my brownie? A lot of people just automatically assume that I'm offering cooking lessons. They don't know. So when they hear PRF, they're like, okay, so let's peel back the onion and see what this is about. But before we go into each letter of the PRF, what led Dr. Nate Dunlap to go that next element of faith and launch the PRF Institute?
So yeah, so I guess sharing a little bit more about my background. Um, when I got into the law enforcement field, my first stint, if you will, was on the drug scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doing the undercover spots, and then I started working in economic crimes. And because I had a background in logistics, I was really pretty good with fraud and um, different type of economic crimes, the white collar crimes, and all of that.
Right.
And so what I realized was that there was a connection between those two. Most people didn't sell drugs except for to make money. A lot of people sold drugs in my neighborhood to get out the hood or to get possessions that they envied other folks from having, or things that they knew they were not going to get just working, $10 an hour at a job.
Right.
And then on the other part, I was seeing where people were making decisions out of necessity, right? Not having enough money, so deciding to float checks or write bad checks and stealing from other folks and all of that. And I think as I really started my walk with Christ around 2000, 2001 timeframe, I really started to understand that all the things that God has allowed me to be a part of and in my career was not just about helping folks to go to jail if that's where they wanted to go because of the things that they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
I was starting to become a little or are a lot more compassionate for the people that were engaging in these type of activities.
Mm.
And God started bringing more people across my path on a professional level that I had many opportunities to minister to.
Mm-hmm.
And it started becoming clear that, when I started becoming active in church, where was the church? Right? I'm like, how come we ain't helping folks with all of this? And how come we tripping on folks that don't pay tithes? And well, they struggling. They just got laid off. What you want from them? So I started having a lot of questions, and then I did what they told me to do. So I am who I am for all the people who pushed me and told me to read the Bible. So since I read the Bible and I saw what the Bible was saying, I was like, how come we ain't doing all this? And so taking all of that was what drove me. And it was kind of like God was saying, all right, because back then I was just rah, rah, rah.
Yeah.
I said whatever I wanted to say, and sometimes I wasn't too nice at it. My wife would probably tell you a lot of times I wasn't. But then it was like God was like, okay, you got all this to say, and now let me drop all this stuff on you. And so he was dropping different things on me, and I would just take those thoughts, and then I just started writing, brother, and writing. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was just writing down, what God was giving me. I wasn't a preacher at the time. I wasn't, actively in ministry. It just was what it was. And I started saying, yeah, there's something to this. There's something to be able to help people in this area so they don't wind up being on the receiving end, or so they don't wind up being on the end of where I was getting people on the receiving end, over a 29-year career.
Yeah. And that's important. This is why I believe you and I connect so well, because I was thinking about, as you were talking about the compassion piece, I've never, I'm not going to ask you if you've ever been, I doubt you have, but I've never been to jail, right? Never. And
Glad you didn't ask that.
yeah.
I'm just saying, hey, that's some hope for somebody that you can still go to jail and still become
That's
something
right,
in
bro.
your life.
That's right. We didn't prep. We don't ever prep for our shows. So I do have some guardrails, man. But whether you have or you haven't, when I go into those cold steel iron doors every month at the Craven County Jail, it has really elevated my compassion for humanity, brother. You know what I mean? We go there on our own time, our own dime, our own effort and energy, and they can't pay, but we just continue to go, because I'm like, man, if we can touch one of these people in here, then it'll be worth it. And I'm just amazed to hear how God tugged at your heart and took you through all this kind of labyrinth of direction for you to be able to see and have it illuminated before you, the needs in society. Now, one thing that you said, and you say often, for those of you who don't know, I'm talking to the great Dr. Nate Dunlap. You can find him at prfinstitute.org. He's out of Opelika, Georgia, but he's world renowned. One of the things that I heard you say is, where was the church?
Yeah.
And you are on a mission to kind of wake the church up in these regards, because are you seeing, you alluded to it, that we're not seeing these things talked about in the sanctuary, right? Where'd you go, doctor? Oh, you thinking?
Yeah. I never, let me just answer, like, again, I never thought that this would be anything that I would be doing, right?
Yeah.
This is not something that I set out to be my career path. It's just, I preached about this on Sunday, man. When people need help, who is going to help, right? And if you don't do it, who else is going to do it? So that's where a lot of this honestly has come from, is me being the one not to run and be the first one into the fire. Doggone, am I going to sit out there giving interviews with the news station talking about, yeah, man, it was bad. Like, dude, you saw it before it became engulfed, right? Before it became what it was. You saw it when somebody ran out the building when it was just in one bedroom. You know what I'm saying? and could have done something about it. And I think, brother, I just have this reverential fear of God, to when I can help, and especially when God is leading, and equipped me to do it and anointed me to do it, or called or sent. And man, if I don't do my part, then I'm just as guilty as the jokers who um, sit there with power, privilege, money, positionality,
Hmm.
and decide I'm not going to fool with that because of.
Well, and that's what I love about it, because it's like, hey, I tell this to people often. I may not be able to come by and help you because you just referred to fire. I'm going to use it in a different reference. I may not be able to come by and help you build your total bonfire, but I can come by and fan the flames. You know what I mean? I can come by and fan the smoke and the coals. And we
Right.
do have to not live this life with blinders on, because God called us to each other. So when did you found PRF?
I would tell you the first time that we actually taught PRF was actually yesterday was the 15-year anniversary
Oh,
of the first
wow.
time that we ever went somewhere, and the first time we stood in front of people saying, here's what we know about possessions, resources, and finances down in Biloxi, Mississippi.
Mm,
Um, and so that's when the journey began. I didn't set out for this to be a nonprofit organization or a not-for-profit
hmm.
organization. I didn't look for this to be my business or anything. It was, let's just go and do the work.
Right.
Um, and it took, several years of trying to figure out what we were doing. And, because I was working at the time also, so I wasn't, it wasn't like I put everything into this every single day.
Right.
And then trying to learn what are the different ways that we needed to help people. And so I think I know we're at a really good spot after all these years, but it never was something that we set out to do.
Well, let's get into it, because many people, for those of you who are listening to our listening audience, which is downloaded in 49 of the 50 states and 32 different countries. I want you guys to understand, you can't see the great doctor, but you can definitely hear the passion and sobriety in his voice about this. He's so serious about this message and this purpose and this mission that God has had him on. PRF. So when you're talking the P, possessions, how do you what does that how does Dr. Dunlap and PRF Institute help people understand the role of possessions in their life?
So the basic approach is, let's do an assessment. Let's find out where you are,
Right.
right? Because everything does not fit everybody. And sometimes people will come to us for one thing, and after we do an assessment, we can say they may need C, right? C may be really important to them, but we know that A is going to really help you to get to dealing with C. And so when we talk about possessions, I'm oftentimes, not myself individually, but our team, we're dealing with people that sometimes have stuff that they should not have,
Ooh.
stuff that they should not have purchased,
Okay.
stuff that they should have let go long ago, stuff, stuff, right? And those things have a financial impact a lot of times, right? Somebody purchased a car and is paying $700 a month for 1999
Right.
because
Right.
they got bad credit,
Right.
right? And so they're trying to keep up with stuff a lot of times that they should not have, because there could have been a better way or a different way of going to get a vehicle versus something like that.
Yeah.
Um, so trying to help people to understand, listen, everything is about stewardship, and it's how do you take care of the things that God has given to you. Now, when we say that, one of the things that we teach with um, the five, one of the five components of stewardship is you can't manage that which God did not give to you.
Ooh. Wow, that's
So,
good.
so yeah, so you decide to go out there and to buy a car that you know you really can't afford. God don't do that. That was you.
Well,
So
and yes, he's so right, y'all. Y'all listening to this out there again. Dr. Nate Dunlap, he dropped some golden nuggets, some diamonds, but he said you can't manage what God did not give you. And we sometimes blame it on God. Oh, hey, my blessing came in, right? Huh, Doc?
mhm.
Yeah, that's right.
So we, it's not about beating anybody up. It's like, listen, you
Right.
shouldn't have had this in the first place, right? Because you couldn't afford it. Could have been a house, right? Whatever it was. But now we're in this spot where it's tough. So sometimes we got to help people to release that thing which is holding them down and holding them back.
Okay.
Got to release it, right? Doesn't mean you just turn the car back in because that's going to hurt your credit, hurt a person's credit as well. But it's let's at least start trying to explore how you can deal with that possession that's causing you so much pain and so much grief.
Right.
And it may be, let's put this thing on Facebook Marketplace. Let's put
Yeah.
this on Craigslist. Let's put a for sale sign. You drive to a high traffic area every single day, put a for sale sign in there, and maybe try to get from up under that possession so that you can get and have possession over the thing that God would want you to have. Listen, I'm not ashamed to tell you, I used to drive a 745 IL, big body, and I traded that bad boy in and bought a Nissan Versa with no radio, no automatic, uh, no electric windows.
Yeah.
It didn't matter because the way I look and view possessions can never be my God.
Ah. Yeah, that's good. Possessions cannot be your God. I hope y'all wrote that one down because that's a good one. And I'm thinking about that because when we talk possessions and the timing of them, let me pick your brain on this since everybody's looking over our shoulder. The world is listening to you and I right now. It, could we look at possessions and timing together? Like it may not be that you shouldn't have a car, but maybe the timing isn't right for you to have that car.
Absolutely. And again, it depends on the approach that you are taking before you get something, right? The book of Proverbs tells us in the multitude of counselors there is safety,
Yes.
right? So I remember back in my early military days, you know what used to be taught in the army back in the day? As a young soldier, you better not go out and buy a car without talking to me as your supervisor first.
Mm, mm,
See, it was about accountability. And so there's these other pieces of stewardship, accountability and responsibility that also come into play. But the timing could have been right if you had the right guidance,
oh, see, okay.
right?
Yeah.
Sometimes people like to make a move right now. It wasn't that you shouldn't have brought a car right now. You needed a car. But did you need to buy that car right now?
Right.
Right? You just got to the duty station. I'm talking military terms, right? You just got to the duty station. You don't know who's the jokers that's ripping soldiers off at the car dealership. You don't know
Yeah.
who those folks are. So you
See
got
you coming.
so yeah. So this whole thing about you know uh, safety because of decisions that are being made for people that care and love you enough, and that's what we do as parents,
Right.
right? I'm gonna tell my daughter if you messing around with a knucklehead or if that
Right.
joker don't have good intentions, right? Why
Yeah.
would I not? I'm a good father. That's what a good father does, and that's the way God would do with us if we're willing to connect with him.
That's good. And it's interesting. Greg says no cars as an E3. And I will say this because Greg and I are former Marines. You're an Army officer, but I have some vested interest in the Army now myself too, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right.
That's
You
right.
can never say nothing bad about the
That's
army.
right, baby. I love the Army. He took that boy, got him out my house. Yes, Lord. But one thing that I love about the Army, I don't necessarily recall it happening for me like this as a Marine. But when Chris checked in to Colorado, Fort Carson, it
Mhm,
was like they had a plan. Like he was going to have a mentor, and that
mhm,
mentor, that E5 or whatever, was going to help him navigate through these things. Now you're getting a check, more money than you've ever made, but that doesn't mean you go out here and blow it. It was they are very, very seemingly very big on mentorship now, and I
mhm.
was very appreciative of that.
Good.
Yeah, and the Marine Corps, not hitting the Marine Corps, y'all. I love the Marine Corps, but they just said, "Hey, get over there and grab that." You know what I mean? I don't know if they mentored anything, but in what I see now is in this town that we live in Impactville, I see all these nice cars rolling down the street, all these high end cars. I'm like, man, what kind of salaries is going on with this? But anyway, that's why it's important, like you said, getting wisdom and counsel and being accountable to someone that's been there and done that, right, Doc?
That's right. That's right. And I will say this, um, it all goes back to leadership,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you are a good leader, I don't care whether I'm talking about church or talking about on the basketball court as a coach, football field. If you are a good leader, you have a vested interest in making sure that you do everything that you possibly can to help people to live the best lives that they can actually live,
Right.
right? And so if people are out here struggling financially, they're making dumb mistakes, they're making intentional bad choices,
Right.
there has to be the question of, okay, who's their leader?
That's true.
I tell people all day, who the pastor? When I what church you go to, right? Not that we call nobody out, but I'm
Right.
just saying
Right.
maybe I
Right.
can have a conversation like, listen, you got some folks, and I've done this, right? I never break confidentiality, and everybody knows I'm a team not to do this. But I got tired at one point in time, and reached out to a pastor like, listen, I think it'd be a really good idea if you allow us to come in and talk about X, Y, and Z. I couldn't tell this pastor because I got 5 of your people right now
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
are connecting with us, and you probably got a whole bunch more within your house. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right. Yeah, that's good. So, understanding possessions, understanding how to respect them, understanding the timing to acquire them, and then having this thing could be a millstone around your neck, this possession, whatever it is. Having the humility to say, man, I'm not going to continue I'm going to get the for sale sign like Dr. Dunlap said and put this thing out, and then the relief from that, because I've been in that position before. It went even more south for me back when I had my gold Dodge Caravan. I thought had arrived, brother, and I couldn't afford it. Couldn't afford it. You know
Okay.
what I mean? And they came one day, backed up to my single wide trailer, and I heard this tow truck backing up, and I thought, man, I didn't break down. I don't know why a tow truck is out there. he, he he came to the door and said, "Do you want to get those car seats out of this van because we are taking it away?"
Oh my.
Yeah, boy, you talk. I only had 2 kids at the time, but it was we shouldn't have gotten that new of a vehicle at that time. We couldn't afford it. I
Mhm.
wasn't making enough money. Charity wasn't working, and so when times got tight, we just didn't pay the payment. And
Right.
and and but I will tell you this. Now that's 20 25 years ago. I will tell you this, that once they took it and we had to go get us an old beater, right? That opened my eyes to, number one, hey, look, I'm going to have to do some things different before I buy and finance another car. Number
Mhm.
two, I felt release because it was causing tension in our marriage. Every time the bill came, you know what I mean? It was a stress, it was
Right.
a strain. And so for them to take that away from me actually was a blessing. And I talk about that in a lot of my speeches, man. It's like, I was trying to hold on to something that it wasn't my time to have, brother.
Right. Right. And thank God for that wisdom. Even though it was painful, right? Thank
Yeah.
God for the wisdom.
Yeah, it was embarrassing, man. Your wife standing there like, what we're gonna do now? I'm just like, well, they didn't have Uber back then, so I guess we're gonna take a taxi.
Dixie cab. Dixie cab.
So resources. We've dealing with possessions, but resources are another area where you help people. And I love that you said that you do assessments with folks. So if you would like to connect with Dr. Dunlap, if you'd like to have him come to your church or organization, and your faith-based group, all you got to do is go to prfinstitute.org, and you can connect with him and lay out the groundwork, do the brainstorming together with him. He's extremely knowledgeable, very compassionate, very patient. I mean, he's got me for a friend, so he got to have patience. PRF. So the R is resources. How do you guys help in that area?
Well, it for some people it can kind of be misleading, right?
Okay.
So I'm glad you asked the question about the resource, because here's the thing. Resources is something that can aid you or aid somebody else in a situation.
Hmm.
Now, a resource, let's talk about what resources are. A resource is a job. A resource is that land that you have in the backyard that you can grow your own food, right? It's the
Hmm.
possession, but the resource because it produces something, right?
Ah,
My car can be a resource if I have to use it to drive 30 minutes to work every day to be able to make the money, which is the finances. And
right.
so we try to help people to understand what are the resources in your life. Don't just come looking to us to giving you all of the resources. We'll provide what we have, but I need you to be like uh, Second Kings chapter 4, um, where Elisha and the widow woman, right?
Hmm.
What do you have in the house? Because a lot of times people don't know and don't really look at what they have as being resources to help their own situation. So I need people to be willing to let us point some things out to you. Oh,
Ah.
you don't have to do X because how much money you got in the bank? Well, I got, we got $1,000, but I'm trying to save that. You done got two flat tires. That's why you had to save, right?
Right. Right.
Right? Or resource can be, and a lot of the whole thing with possession, resource, and finances, we're showing people how all of these are interconnected. So kind of think of it like as a triangle,
Yeah.
right? Think of it as the P is the top pinnacle, the R is over here on your left, and the F is on the right. And how, when there's a disruption in your life, how does one or the other ones get affected? Now,
Mm.
on the flip side, as things are going cool, how are all these things flowing? The key is if you start understanding how these things are flowing together, then maybe you'll do better by taking care of your possessions. Because then if that car breaks down and you keep it nasty and you got McDonald bags all over the
Go,
place,
go ahead and
and then
preach.
you like, Lord, give me another car. And the Lord may be like, so you can do the same thing you're doing to that one that you're doing to this one,
Mm.
right? And those are times which you don't want to hear those type of things, or you don't want to hear, well, I'm not going to give you this because of how you treated that.
Right.
So the R is the resources, and I'll sum it up with this: we teach people, and it took a while for me to really embrace this
Hmm.
because I was really focusing on stuff. What are the things that can make things happen?
Okay.
You know what God revealed to me after a couple of years?
What?
The number one greatest resource that God has is not gold. It's not diamonds. It's not. It's none of that stuff. It's people.
Ooh, wow.
We are God's greatest resource. God is the source. We are the resource. So if we are the resource, if you subscribe to that and can believe what I'm putting down,
Right.
then that means there's nothing that we have, nothing that you have or that you need, excuse me, that somebody else does not have.
Right.
You did not hire yourself in your job.
Right.
You did not build the car that you drive. You did not build this high-tech definition studio by yourself.
Right.
You made,
Exactly.
right? You ordered stuff. So and we got people that have all these skills. And so when I take it from a biblical perspective,
Right.
you know what it really means? The operation is really gifts.
Ah. Yeah, that's right, brother.
But
Yep.
sometimes I got to start at a basic spot, right?
Right.
And try to
Right.
address what you need right now. But
Right.
it's gifts. So my gift of teaching can mean a whole lot more than me giving you $25 for a situation.
Phew.
Because if you get into that situation again, all I've done was gave you a fish, but I had the ability to teach you a fish. The question is, do you want to learn how to fish, or do you just want to eat?
Oh my. That's powerful. So I worked for a captain, a Navy captain one time, and he said that our greatest resource. It's funny you said this, but I envisioned him come up just as clear as day. Captain Dare. He said our greatest resource is our people.
Yep.
And he recognized that, and you're right, and that's why I feel like in these times, doctor, why I've really tried to work hard on relationship. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Because if I can, and this is the way I truly feel, and I know you feel the same way, if I can connect you with a place that I have no influence, but you can go there and
Mhm.
make a difference. And it brings in, $1.5 million for PRF. First thing you're gonna do, you're gonna hire me. But then the second thing you're gonna do is you're gonna be able to help so many more people. And
Right.
at the end of the day, if it really isn't about, if we don't recognize the greatest resource around us, then we are just chasing things.
Mhm. And I'll say this because you may be ready to go to the F. How in the world, just think about this for a moment. Matthew 25 is really critical.
Right.
When I was hungry, you fed me. If I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. When I was sick, you came to see about me. In prison, right? When I was naked, you gave me clothes.
Right.
I'm not running down the whole, but think about it. How in the world, if somebody's hungry, can you feed them if you don't have nothing?
That's true.
How can I help somebody who's thirsty if I don't have water myself?
Yeah.
But if I don't have water, but you got water, Brother King, then I should be trying to get some water for myself and you. That means now maybe instead of getting the whole gallon, I get a whole gallon because you give it to me, but I give my brother a half of that gallon.
Right.
Now
Right.
we both eating. I come from the streets of Philly where when one person eat, we all eat. That's the
Yeah.
mentality. And
Yeah.
I just believe before I even knew it, that's the Christian way. Before I do it.
Well, if you're going to eat in Philly, you must have a Philly cheesesteak, because I tell you, I've had one on 2 occasions, and they are the best thing ever.
Ever, ever.
Yeah.
Don't get no better than that.
They don't get no better than that. And we come down here, we have these festivals down here, and they try to, it's almost an insult. They should shut them down. There should not be allowed any Philly cheesesteaks outside of Philly, right, brother?
And listen, let me just help y'all.
Go ahead.
People in Philly don't call Philly cheesesteaks.
What
It's
do you
just
say?
cheesesteaks.
You just
And
say
let me tell
cheesesteak.
you, I was in Cleveland last month, and I found a spot called Cabo's
Uh-huh.
in Cleveland that had cheesesteaks, brother. And I'm gonna tell you, I ate there twice while I was there.
Oh, really?
Real deal.
So you was in my neck of the woods.
Real deal. Yes,
My
sir.
old my old stomping grounds up there in the
Yeah.
Iron City, man. Okay. Well, I also want to tell you guys real quick before we run out of time, because me and Dr. Dunlap
We
could
just
literally
do it.
probably talk for like 7 days straight. I want you to tell you about a book that I have of his. It's called What's Next? Preparing for Eternity. I have right here in my possession. I have a signed copy, y'all. He's got
Look
4
at
of
that.
my books. I feel terrible. I need to go buy some more of his. Greg said in the comments that he's waiting on the new book that's coming out that you teased us with a little while ago. So just remember, we don't forget. Greg's in forensics. He watching you, bro. Oh,
Oh,
see, there we
we
go.
working on
There we
it, man.
go.
I just can't force it, man. That's all. I
Yeah,
just can't force it.
and that's the truth. And when I remember when we were doing my book, Greg had said we need to have the book finished by 7/24, to go with 7 days a week, 24/7. And when I got to 7/24, I wasn't finished. It wasn't
Mhm.
done. And you don't want to just throw something together just for the sake of a date, So again, you can get a copy of this book, What's Next? Preparing for Eternity, and also his other book that he has. The book is called Don't Leave Me Like This: Inspiration to Leave a Legacy, right there. And you can get both of those. Can they go? Would you like them to go to Amazon or to your website?
They're on the website.
All
They're on
right,
the
so
website. That way
PRF.
I get the autograph for you.
That's right. PRFinstitute.org. Get your copies of this and then sow these into, or give these into, the lives of someone else. And just give us a quick snapshot of what's next. Preparing for Eternity is about, Doctor.
Yeah, so it's really a book that is crazy because it was done right before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
It published it right before COVID. And when people pass away, there's a need for people to be able to grieve
Right.
and to grieve in a healthy way. And we've found that a lot of times people don't have the opportunity to grieve because they're trying to handle all the other stuff
Right.
that comes with a household that may have had two people in the household, now it's only one, or the breadwinner is now gone, or whatever the case may be. And so I'm painting this picture that it's a long road ahead for individuals that are experiencing grief, but it doesn't have to be as long. In a way that it's not as long is when you have a resource like this book that will say, here's the things that somebody needs to do. And it takes the pressure, if you just operate, there's destinations in this book, and it takes the pressure off of the one who may have had the most direct loss, right? So that somebody else can say, okay, I know he ain't thinking about this right now because he just lost his father or whoever.
Right.
And so what does it say about how to deal with a mortgage, right? Oh, what does it say about having certain bills in a person's name? I hear all this type of stuff from folks that say, oh yeah, I got to pay this bill. No, your grandmama gone.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't your bill, right? And so we have to help people in a very authentic way while allowing people to grieve, so that that period of eternity that they're no longer going to see their loved one doesn't have to be prolonged by all the heartache and pain that comes with trying to deal with financial matters when somebody's gone.
That's so good, man. Yeah, it is a good book, Greg. And it's funny. He said right before COVID, my signed copy is 6/3/2019. And man,
Mhm.
just 6 months later, how the world turned upside down, didn't it, brother?
That's right. That's
Man,
right.
that's something. And then the second book that he wrote, and he's working on his third. We'll give him a shout out for that in a minute. But the second book that he's working on, or that he has completed, is "Don't Leave Me Like This: Inspiration to Leave a Legacy." Right? That's your second book.
That's the first one, actually.
That's the first one, right? Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
Um, yeah. So in short, I had three father figures in my life, and all three of them passed away within a 2-year period. And there were some things that all three of them just did not have together when it came to estate planning. And that caused a whole bunch of extra grief that, I just felt I should not have had to deal with. And so again, a lot of times God uses my pain to help relieve the pain of others. And so I'm telling that part of my story, honoring those men in my life, but at the same time saying, listen, um, don't leave me like this. That's a question or a statement that I could ask to all three of those powerful men that I miss and love dearly in my life. And nobody should have to hear that, right? Nobody should have to be crying out. Um, don't leave me like this, right? Can't help that they left me, right? If that's how I feel about it. But like this, where I can't handle certain business, where the house is no longer my house, where I can't go back to the place that I grew up in because the house is now gone, because we didn't have paperwork and a will in place and advance directive, all that type of stuff. So, um, you know, I think it's still powerful. I think between my book and COVID-19 and the million plus people dying, people should be running to us in droves,
Yeah.
saying, how do you help us to get our estate plan and affairs in order? And it's not going to cost your, a left arm and a finger and a foot. Just reach out to us. Let us get what we got to get done. We done gave away $54,000, my last count, of estate planning services, and that may have been in like the last 2-3 years. So
Wow. And again, I want you to connect with Dr. Dunlap. You can find him at and his team at prfinstitute.com. I went to the website today just to check out the board and everybody and all the setup. They have it a seamless entry into their organization. And I'm telling you, if you have questions, this is the place to go. I'm really just petitioning you all. Listen, prfinstitute.org. Now let me ask about the last one, because we're up against the clock, and the other people that already text me, are we still doing it? Yes, relax, we got this. This is a professional enterprise here, y'all. We got this. Greg says, you doing 2 shows tonight? I said, brother, I could do 4 shows tonight. Just let me run this thing. The the F in PRF stands for finances,
yeah.
and help us understand how PRF Institute is looking to help 200,000 people in the next 7 years in the realm of finances.
Yeah, so the vision of PRF is to assist with the economic landscape or economic transformation of 200,000 people over the next 7 years. We're already about 2 years in, so that means we got still a pretty long way to go. And the F, which stands for finances, is, yes, we're talking about money. right? But the whole vision is for everything, right? It's not just one of the particular areas. But what we found out is that there's a lot of things financially that people really have to start taking into account. If you go back to COVID-19 during that time when March of 2020 hit, a lot of the situations that happened in people's lives was because they had not been to PRF yet, right? Or they not take it seriously, what we've been talking about for all of those years. And now people have to take a personal responsibility for their situations, right? While having somebody else like us to do the one-on-one financial coaching is what we do so that we can help people to be accountable and make their goals. And so we're really good at helping people to devise a plan and also helping the people to work their plan. And again, we need that accountability. If we don't have the accountability, there's a lot of information that's out there. That doesn't mean people are going to do anything with it. And so we are looking to really help people to get to a much better place. It's been happening. I mean, we've been helping a lot of people. I mean, it's amazing. One of the things I'm proud of, and it'll be kind of released maybe next week, so I'll share it with you. I'm always sharing something brand new with you.
I love it. I love it. That's because I'm an insider, brother.
Yeah, so I'm gonna share this for the insider of the crew. But one of the things that we know is medical debt really affects a lot of people, and we've been watching it. We've seen some things over the years, and so we embarked on that this year. And I got the report back the last week, a week before last, and we collected money, got donations. Thankful for everybody who participated, but we helped to eliminate $1.119 million of medical debt recently. And this is for six counties in the state of Alabama that has some high poverty. Poverty rate in Alabama is 15.5, 15.6. And every county that we were able to help people in those counties, the poverty rate was, I think, at least 24%.
No way.
So it's finding, to sum it up, we just pay attention to specific things that will help specific demographics of people, right? How else do we get into this 200,000? What we do inside of the jail, right? Inside of the correctional part of our, the correctional side of our criminal justice system. We don't wait for folks to get out that's already going through stuff. Right. We go inside the jail, right? We go behind the walls, and not just to do singing and praying and Bible study. It's like, no, somebody else is doing that. Y'all good. But let's talk about how much it's going to cost to live on the outside. I don't know how long you've been locked down. You've been locked down for 4 years. It's going to be different than what it was.
A lot of stuff changed, cuz.
Yeah. And so to help them so that they can understand things better, we've had some really good success with the Georgia Department of Corrections. Really good right now in the Lee County Jail in Opelika, Alabama, on our 9th cohort. And it's with partnership. And so that's how we're really going to get to helping people, teaching people how to fish that want to learn how to fish or that see the need for them to learn how to fish. Right. Acts chapter 8. Just go look at Acts chapter 8. That story with the Ethiopian eunuch. He just came from Jerusalem, came from the worship service.
Right.
He read and don't know what he reading. But he asked a question. The question was asked to him by somebody that had enough care and compassion for him, named Philip. Philip said, "Do you know what you're reading?" And eunuch says, "I don't know. I don't know unless somebody instructs me or tells me." Right. And that created the relationship of, I'm willing to help you. You saying you don't need or you don't know what you're doing and you need some help, and then you accepted the help. And then there was a beautiful relationship and a whole bunch of things that transpired. Those are the type of things that's happening at the PRF Institute.
I love it. And one of the things we got, let's see here, ladies and gentlemen, I think we have 6 minutes. And it seems like I need about 6 more hours. Go to prfinstitute.org. One thing that it's been in my brain, I'm trying to get to it. 2 ministers can't be on the same show because we love to talk.
Every time, man. Every time.
Like, okay, 2 things. The one thing I want to talk about real quick is the assessment. The second thing I want to talk about is the work that you did during COVID. Remember that online marathon that you did during the COVID-19, that was unprecedented. That was groundbreaking. So let's go first. The assessment. If someone comes in, because I love what you said about that. I go to the doctor's office. These guys been to school, but they have a tendency to do an assessment with me every time I go in if I need something. And I used to say, well, wait a minute, you the doctor, tell me what's wrong. But
Right.
they want to hear from me where I am. And how does your assessment work?
Real simple. If you go to the section of our website called How We Help, you'll see a drop down menu and it says assessments. We have several assessments on our website. We have a general assessment and a stewardship assessment. Anybody who comes to us and wants some assistance from us, whether you want it for your church, you're going to do assessments because we want to know where you are. And that way we're able to frame what you're asking for or what you say you have some problems on. And we got some things to assess what you're saying so that we be like, oh, this person may not realize that that's an issue in their life. And so we do those, but then when there's specific issues or concerns, we have assessment for credit and one for debt, planning and savings, giving, tithing, wills, financial healing. We get people to fill out those assessments. Once we get those assessments in, we review those. And then the next step is to have a consultation, right? And so once you have a consultation, we're going to go through the assessments, not all of them, right? You can't do them all, but we're going to definitely go through at least the general and maybe the stewardship one, and then say, okay, from here, here's where we think you need to be going, what you need to be focusing on. Now, if you want us to help, then we say, listen, come and be a part of the PRF Institute, and just sign up to allow us to do the work that God has called us to do it from that point on. And I would say this, most of the people that we help cannot afford us.
Wow.
Right. So it takes having investors to invest in the PRF Institute so that we can continue to investing in people who say that they're willing to invest in themselves. Once I help you, then you're able to invest in somebody else. But I can't expect to get blood out of a turnip until we transform some things in your life.
That's a true statement. And what you said in terms of affordability, I experienced that exact same thing. And I have to
Mhm.
find other investors, and you're one of them, to help us do what we do, doctor. And I'm telling you,
Amen.
when I say I appreciate it, brother, and Greg and I, on behalf of our entire team, brother, we love and appreciate Dr. Dunlap. One other thing, you did a marathon uh, training during the COVID 19 out pandemic. Tell us about give us a snapshot of what that was like.
It was called 12 Days of Kingdom Preparedness. Listen, I already knew some stuff because of what I did for a living. So I already knew it was about to get freaking bad. And I knew that before everybody else. And you know that, Brother King.
Yep.
Here I am sitting around, having already prepared in the month of February for what everybody else wasn't really dealing with until March. But one of the things about it was now I had time because I wasn't traveling. And God quickly spoke and said, um, kingdom preparedness. Like, you got to be prepared. It's nothing we can do about certain situations right now. And that marathon was, here are the 12 things that we needed to be focusing on in the middle of the pandemic. And I promise you, for 12 straight days, it was brutal because we had sometimes two, sometimes three coming together with 19 different people, yourself included, from around this country that was all dealing with a certain topic of these 12.
Yeah.
And man, listen, I probably want to write a book about it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not going to change. Those are the 12 things that we need to be focusing on in society if we want to have, I would say, life and life more abundantly. So Acts chapter 2, verse 42 to 47, go take a look at it. That's all I'll tell you.
And don't wait around for the next pandemic. Don't wait around for the
Hmm.
next crises. This
Hmm.
is what our show is. Our show is Impacting Life 24/7 is a cathedral of resources, right? So we have brought to you one of the most sought after experts on possessions, resources, and finances. And if it's not you, but your church or organization or civic group or whoever, we want to plug you into an entity that it operates with integrity, that has a leadership based with compassion, and somebody that gets an organization that gets results. This is the PRF Institute. PRF, Possessions, Resources, and Finances. And Dr. Dunlap, when will that next book be done? We're going to put you on the hook. We just want to know.
I don't know.
You said, well, that was a great answer. And you know what?
No.
You know what? That's one of the best answers you can give. Oftentimes, sometimes people feel like you got to have an answer for everything. The other day, somebody asked me something, and I said, I have no clue. I have no clue. And they looked at me like, well, aren't you CL King? I said, I'm not God Almighty. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, take your time, but when it comes out, we will definitely, obviously we'll have you back before then, but when you're finished and you want to do a launch on this show, consider this a platform you can launch your book from. Okay, Dr. Dunlap?
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much.
You know, this show is only supposed to be 30 minutes, and look at us. One solid hour, and we didn't even scratch the surface. But you can scratch the surface and go way deeper to connect with my friend, Dr. Nate Dunlap Jr. I've been leaving that off. Go to prfinstitute.org and connect with him today. Any closing thoughts, Dr. Dunlap?
God bless y'all. Thank y'all. Connect with me. Let's do it now.
Okay, connect with him. Go to prfinstitute.org. And for those of you watching, you want to stick around for hour number 2 of Impacting Life 24/7. We'll be with you in just a few moments. Thank you, Dr. Dunlap. I love you. Love your support.
Appreciate you, sir.
Thank you so much for all that you do for us and what you're doing for America and throughout the world.
You as well. God bless.
Have a great night.